Welcome back. It is your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's Expresso on S3. Now, fasting, it is a practice many people use for various reasons, including weight management, practicing abstinence, and following religious observances. Now, we know that our Muslim brothers and sisters are currently observing the holy month of Ramadan, and part of the traditions associated with Ramadan is fasting. Now, this morning, we are joined by dietitian Kerry Seedy to learn more about what happens to our bodies when we fast. Kerry, it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. So basically, during fasting, your body starts to burn fat for energy because you're going for long periods of time without eating. You burn through your carbs first, and then obviously you start to burn fat for energy. So you go into what we call a state of ketosis.
We hear this word often, and I know the boys on this show, Graham and Raoul, they're big fasting boys, and they've been trying to drag me in. Okay. I think for me, there are some myths around fasting that I'd love to break, and I think one of them is that, you know, your muscularity. You know, you work so hard at the gym, and now are you going to lose muscle while fasting? I think it's quite an anecdote from my side, but the boys are always trying to ask me to do this. So is that true? I mean, are you going to be dropping muscle weight as well?
So it's a bit controversial at the moment, because one of the latest studies that has actually come out from the States, it's quite a large study of a few thousand people, actually found that long periods of fasting actually do lead to reduced lean muscle mass. And actually retaining abdominal fat.
Interesting. I told them that. Thank goodness. See? Thank you, Kerry. This is wonderful. But let's move on.
We know that during the month of Ramadan, fasting's from sunrise to sunset. Can we unpack the various other types of fasting that you would see as a dietitian?
Yes, so obviously most of them are based on the hours that you fast. So the most popular is what we call the 16-8 method, where you fast for 16 hours. So normally people would skip breakfast in the morning and then eat from like sort of midday or lunchtime. Then you get the alternate day fast, you get the 2-day fast. And then there's one called the warrior diet, where you fast for up to like 20 hours, which is quite extreme.
So does all of that fall under the bracket of intermittent fasting?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's quite a loose term in terms of, you know, what's included with it.
So besides the studies you told me about with regard to, you know, lean muscle mass, there are some very good studies around fasting, what it does to the body. I mean, it apparently increases energy. Your body starts functioning in a different type of way. I know the boys in this show, they keep on telling me about how energetic they are and they look so good. So what actually is happening to your body that provides this energy, this unlocking of the energy?
Yes, so some patients do say that they get into that sort of higher energy mode, but it's normally after a period of fasting. So initially people generally have low energy levels, but as the body adapts to fasting, one becomes more fat adapted. So we've seen it even in studies with athletes, especially your endurance athletes, that try to become more sort of fat adapted to fasting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we are in the month of Ramadan, and for those who you know need to be heading before sunrise, what would you say is the best thing to break their fast, or to eat before sunrise to sustain them during the day, but also keep them hydrated?
Yeah, so it's very important to have a high-fiber cereal in the morning. So I normally recommend oats porridge. It's really good soluble fiber, it's low GI, it helps to sustain you. Also having enough fluid in the morning with your breakfast. So I know a lot of my patients that do fast tend to have about 750 mils to a litre in the morning, just to make sure to stay hydrated throughout the day. I'd avoid anything too salty in the morning, because that tends to increase thirst as well. And then also just including things like fruits that have a lot of water content, so things like watermelon, grapes, and then having some protein as well. So trying to incorporate more food groups, because obviously you're breaking it up into 2 meals. So you want to get enough energy and fiber, and obviously fluid as well.
And let's talk about gut health, because that's a very, very big thing. I'm glad there's a global focus on gut health at the moment. But what is fasting's impact on gut health? Should one continue to take a probiotic and a prebiotic and all of those things when you are fasting? What is the difference there with regard to fasting and gut health?
Yes, so I think because your food the amount you can eat at one point in time is much less than if you're eating right throughout the day.
Yes.
So often fiber becomes an issue, which can cause a bit of constipation.
Okay.
So that's why most people do incorporate dates or prunes or things like that just to help keep one regular. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Great advice, Kiri. And we have so much more to ask because I'm thinking about fasting, taking it on. I'm not sure if I'm going to survive because
Is Ral and Graham getting to you?
They are getting into my head. But at the same time, I'll be honest, in the wardrobe room, they do have 8 packs at the moment. So it might just be a consideration from my side. Either way, we will continue the chat with Kiri in the next couple of minutes.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Now, if you've just joined us, we were having a bit of a health chat with our dietitian, that is Kiri Seedy, learning about how fasting affects our body. And if you are considering fasting, perhaps in solidarity during the month of Ramadan, or perhaps for health benefits, so doing the 16-8, we have got some information for you.
And let's talk about when it comes time to breaking fast. Muslims will break their fast with either a date or perhaps with water. But from a dietitian's point of view, what would you recommend we break our fast with? What type of food groups do we need to focus on?
Yes, so I think, like I was saying earlier, I would go for a clean meal, a balanced meal, making sure you're getting enough protein, carbs, and your veggies and salad. It's fine to incorporate the dates or sort of high water containing fruits with your fast. There's no sort of hard and fast rule in terms of what to break your fast with. It's not going to affect anything really. And just to make sure you get enough fluid in. I think the problem that comes in with breaking fasting is people are starving.
Yeah.
So they normally just grab whatever their body's craving, or, you know, so often it's high fat, high sugar. So you want to try and avoid that in terms of going for the really high fat, high sugary foods, you know.
Okay, so let's talk about, you know, those who are in the month of Ramadan and, of course, people who are doing the, I'm going to call it the health fast, so to speak. When it comes to training and exercising during that time, what are some of your recommendations over there? Because I know some people enjoy training while they are fasting, but at the same time, it's a long day. So what are your recommendations around exercise and fasting?
Yeah, so generally we recommend sort of more moderate type activity, nothing too extreme, obviously, because you can't drink fluid throughout the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I normally tell a lot of my patients to try and space their training around their eating. So to do it sort of after the morning, after your breakfast in the morning, before, you know, you start your 12-hour fast, and having enough carbs with breakfast before you go for your training session. But just moderate intensity, like walking, hiking, nothing too extreme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of extreme, we do the temperatures and we constantly joke that Uppington is so close to the sun. But in South Africa, we are still experiencing heat and summer, and I can imagine that makes it even more difficult for those who are fasting. When it comes to taking care of yourself, because if you're not allowed to drink liquids during your period of fasting, how can you ensure that you stay safe and you maintain your hydration levels during your fast?
Yes, so that's why it's so important to get enough fluid in the morning before the fast starts. So in total in the day, if you want to try and work out your fluid requirements, we look at 30 milliliters per kilogram body weight, and that's what your body actually requires over a 24-hour period. So say you're 50 kilograms, that would be like a 1.5 liter per day. So then I would suggest that breaking that fluid up into 750 in the morning, 750 at night, and so on. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about who shouldn't be fasting. Because, I mean, I do have some apprehension around when I've been asked, hey, you must join the fast, you know, and especially the health fast. I don't mind fasting with regard to, you know, with my Muslim brothers and sisters, you know, for solidarity. But, like, who shouldn't be trying the fasting method? I think it's important to note if there are any danger areas for some people.
Yeah. No, for sure. So there are exceptions. So obviously patients, mostly your diabetic patients taking insulin, they have to be very careful during fasting, and often your doctor will advise them not to fast depending on their blood sugar control. Obviously, women that are pregnant don't have to fast. And obviously, if you have to take any medication that requires food intake throughout the day for whatever chronic illness, that would also be the exception.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when it comes to, you know, perhaps for those who are now fasting for Ramadan, but also those who are fasting for health reasons, From a dietitian's point of view, what last words would you give them to encourage them to keep them energized, to keep them, you know, focused on the goal at hand?
Yes. So I would probably suggest seeking help from a professional if they really want to be serious about the fast. So seeing a dietitian, I've worked out a lot of fasting programs for patients for Ramadan, and also just making sure that you maintain healthy eating throughout the period. I'd avoid that high fat, high sugar foods that often come with fasting.
Okay, that's brilliant. So,
Yeah.
and those who are trying the whole fasting thing, I almost feel like I'm asking for myself.
You
here.
are asking for yourself.
I am, no, but I have to. So when I tried it the first time, I got a bit dizzy.
Yeah.
You know, I got a bit lightheaded as well. I felt a bit like even my speech started to be impaired because of this.
Wow.
So for anybody who's going to go into it, I know I was probably the extreme case, but I just think that what should you be expecting on that first day of fast, and what should you be pushing through versus what are danger signs? I think that's actually very,
Yes.
very important for anybody jumping into this.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're getting exceptionally dizzy and you're not feeling well, I would
That's a no.
probably suggest eating something.
Thank you.
But yeah, I would just say making sure you have enough carbs in the morning. You know, have your cereal, have your fruit, have your yogurt.
Yes.
Have enough fluid in the morning.
Okay.
Just to help push you through. Don't try and skimp in the morning, and then you're going to be starving all day till you break the fast at night. So just making sure you have enough food. Yeah.
Okay, this is wonderful. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kiri. I've made my decision.
Is it? Are you gonna try it?
I am going to do intermittent eating, as I have been anyway. But it's great. Kiri, you've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Great. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, we loved having your insight here. And this morning on our social media channels, we actually asked our viewers our good morning post. So let's take a look at what came through. We asked you, whether it's for religious reasons or for health, have you tried fasting, and what are your tips for getting through the day? You could send us a voice note, a WhatsApp line, but let's take a look at the comments that came through. Our first one came through saying, good morning, yes, I have tried fasting, but unfortunately for me, I'm always tempted and end up eating. That happens to a lot of people.
And then our good friend Gary Okamp also jumped in and said, hey, tried it and know about the health benefits, but it's tough.
It is tough. It really is tough.
It is, yeah.
Oh, if you want to weigh in on that conversation, you can always send us a voice note. But let's take a look at more of those messages. Paul just saying good morning to us, so thank you for that, Paul. We have Ikaram saying, be sure you are healthy enough to fast and not taking medications that require meals intake, just like Kerry had said. So.
Wonderful stuff, and good advice there from somebody. Naturally, if you're on medication, that's a question, like a quick one.
Yeah.
Should you be pausing your fast if you are on medication? Or can one take some of those medications during? That is a powerful question.
It's totally dependent on whether you require food intake with medication.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, majority of, well, depending on the medication, but a lot of them do require, like antibiotics and that kind of thing, do require food intake. So, yeah, it's totally dependent on the meds.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. You see, we need to answer that while we're here. And there's another one saying, I have oats milk and some chia seeds mixed together and placed overnight in the fridge until suhoor. And of course, early breakfast before fast starts of the day, that is it. And then by this time, the chia seeds have swollen nicely. Also prepare for a big glass of water with seeds before the time. These seeds retain water and helps me by not getting dehydrated during the day. Chia seeds for the win. Hey, let's ask the expert. What are your thoughts on chia seeds?
Yeah, so chia seeds, obviously adding fiber and fat, so it is good to add it. I think it's also a taste thing with your oats, just to adding seed mix and fruit and that kind of thing. I also advocate peanut butter in with the oats.
Oh, yes.
Extra protein.
Yes. And some of my patients even like adding in a scoop of sort of flavoured chocolate whey protein to flavour their oats. Yeah.
Person after my own heart, peanut butter and whey protein is like my jam. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kiri, once again
Pleasure. Thank you.
for this. This has been wonderful. Fasting, is it a good idea? You know what? I think it's important to consult somebody like Kiri prior, and I think make a plan, a steady plan. I think that's the most important thing for you.